Hello, welcome back, Pedestal Wives. So I'm going to give it a moment for everyone to get in the room. If you get into the stream or drop down in the chat just to let me know you can see and hear me. You know, we had some technical difficulties on the last live stream. So I want to make sure that we're good to go in this one. So let me know if you can see, hear me, okay, before we jump into the conversation. Because I really want to be very clear in this video and just tell you that if you can't say what you want clearly, money will never stay with you. Let me say that again because I know people are coming in. If you can't say it, if you cannot say it clearly, money will never stay with you. All right. So just let me know in the chat if you can see and hear me and everything is good. Thank you, Miss Feels Good. I appreciate that. I needed to know that you can see and hear me, especially after the last video where the live stream just cut in the middle of the stream. So thank you, Pedestal Wife. I appreciate you. There is a reason that money stalls for women. It isn't your job. It isn't because you didn't get that promotion. It isn't because you're not good with money. Money stalls for women who are intelligent, capable, responsible, and hardworking. And it has nothing to do with effort. Some of the most underpaid women I have ever met are not passive or unmotivated. They are reliable employees, high performers, team players, women who carry weight, titles at work, and still go home feeling unseen, undervalued, and quietly resentful. Money does not stop because they don't deserve more. It stops because it reaches the mouth and the body decides it is not safe to let it pass. Most women think money issues live in numbers, systems, or external permission. They assume the block is in the economy, the boss, the company, the industry, or the timing. But money stalls long before payroll is even processed or raises are even discussed. It stalls at the moment a woman has to speak, at the moment she has to name her value, ask for compensation, set a boundary, correct an assumption, or clarify expectations. That moment lives in the jaw. When I moved from my little small town to what we seem to believe is the big city, I was surrounded by luxury vehicles that I only saw on television, luxury homes, and luxury that I only imagined that rich people had access to. And even sitting around, surrounded with all this luxury and these beautiful things, I still had issues just saying clearly what I wanted. And money stalled there in the mouth, in the place where clarity either moves forward or collapses. This is the jaw gate. The jaw gate governs clarity and self authority. It decides whether truth can exit the body cleanly or whether it must be softened, padded, explained, or withheld. And when this gate tightens, money doesn't disappear dramatically, it thins, it leaks, it gets delayed, it gets negotiated away before anyone even asks, it gets absorbed into extra labor, unpaid emotional work, and silent tolerance. Women who work jobs experience this every day, but rarely name it as a body issue. They feel it when they know they're doing more than what's in their job description, but can't quite bring themselves to say it. They feel it when they're asked to help out just this once and say yes automatically, even as their jaw tightens. They feel it when they prepare for a performance review and rehearse what they want to say or ask for and only soften the moment they sit down. They feel it when they say, I'm just grateful to be here instead of I've outgrown this role. Money doesn't stop because they don't want more. It stops because direct speech feels unsafe. You can hear it in the language women use at work. I don't want to seem ungrateful. I'm not trying to complain. I know things are tight right now. I'm happy to help. And it's not a big deal. Each phrase sounds polite, reasonable, cooperative, but each one is also a signal from the nervous system that clarity might cost something. And the body remembers. Most women learned early that being direct came with consequences, that being clear could mean being labeled difficult. Asking for more could mean being judged as being greedy. Pointing out imbalance could mean being excluded. So the body adapted. It learned to speak indirectly, to soften requests, to wrap truth in reassurance, to manage other people's comfort before honoring its own needs. This adaptation kept women safe in relationships, families, classrooms, and workplaces. It does not keep money flowing. Money responds to clarity, not compliance. It moves through clean channels, not apologetic ones. And when money encounters a mouth that is bracing, it slows down or stops entirely. This is why women in jobs often say things like, I know I should ask for a raise, but it just feels awkward, or I don't want to rock the boat, or I'll wait until the timing is better. These are not strategic decisions, they're somatic ones. The body is choosing safety over authority, and safety always wins. This is also why women take on unpaid labor so easily. They stay late, they cover shifts, they train new hires without compensation, they carry team morale, they absorb dysfunction, they become indispensable in effort but invisible in authority because effort feels safer than speech. Effort doesn't threaten belonging, clarity does. So women work harder instead of speaking cleaner. They give more instead of asking directly. They overperform instead of renegotiating. And then they wonder why their income doesn't match their output. The jaw gate has been tight the entire time. Money doesn't only stop when women undercharge or underprice, it stops when they don't correct misperceptions, when they don't name scope creep, when they don't clarify expectations, when they don't say, this is outside of my role, or this requires additional compensation, or I'm available for this, not that. Every unpaid sentence has a cost, and women feel it in their bodies: jaw tension, teeth clenching, headaches, neck pain, that feeling of irritation after meetings where nothing was actually said, but everything was implied. That's the jaw gate holding back clarity under pressure. The nervous system does not differentiate between personal and professional authority. If direct speech once led to rejection, punishment, or emotional withdrawal, the body treats a salary conversation the same way it treats a relational one. It tightens, it braces, it protects. This is why mindset work alone doesn't change income. A woman can believe she deserves more and still physically unable to ask for it. The belief lives in the mind, the block lives in the jaw, and the jaw wins. Money plateaus happens at the level of speech. Each income level requires a new degree of clarity. More money demands fewer words, not more. It requires statements instead of stories, boundaries instead of explanations, silence instead of reassurance. This is why promotions stall, because promotions require authority. Authority requires finality, and finality requires feels dangerous to the body and conditions to manage reactions. So women soften, they hedge, they qualify, they wait, and money waits too. This isn't because women are weak. It's because their bodies learned that being clear had consequences. So they developed beautiful coping strategies that worked everywhere except wealth. And this brings me back to when I had a friend that was overworked and underpaid. And we would sit down and we would literally practice about what she's going to say to her superior, what she's going to say to ask for that promotion, what she's going to say to ask for the help that she needed on her shift. And when she would get down and sit with him, she would tell him, Braille, every time that I would feel like, or I was in this space and I was getting ready to ask for that promotion or ask for more money or ask for more help, I would feel like my throat was closing up. Like I would feel so much tension. And instead of asking for the promotion or asking for help, she literally left the office getting more work to do and still being underpaid. And I said, what happened? We would have the conversations and we'd be like, this framework came from observation. This framework came from a decade of mentoring and coaching women and realizing that it's not just their self-concept, it's not just their values, it's not just it's not just blocks. Sometimes it's physically unable to have the words come out of her mouth because the body is so unsafe and the body tightened up. And instead of her, remaining and sitting with that, she would try to soften her words. And in softening her words, the conversation led to confusion. So what happened? She left that office with more work instead of more help or any type of promotion. And we worked together for a long time before she was able to go through the whole process of learning how to remain when her body was under pressure and asking and getting that promotion. She was so happy when we finally was able to get to a space where she was able to ask for the promotion, able to get the help that she needed in her department, and also not only got that, she also got acknowledgement that she was a great employee. But this is what kind of led me down another path to looking at not only myself of being in that space where the spotlight is on me and it feel like physically words could not come out my mouth. Yes, my mind is working, my brain is working overtime. I'm thinking of all the things I should say, but guess where it would stop at? It would stop at the jaw. Everything I was supposed to say, I would not say. Or if I was going to say it, I would over explain it or I would soften it. And in softening the message, sometimes you confuse the person when you soften the message and they don't get the message clearly because you're not being clear. And so observation has created this framework for me to be able to see where the body is under pressure. And when the body is under pressure, we use our patterns to exit. And so she was so excited when she finally got to a space where she could get those words out and ask for the promotion. Because one of the things we realized, and this is another thing in this, working with women for over a decade, a lot of us don't realize it's not about trying to have the perfect words. It's about being clear with those words. It's about standing in clarity with those words. And it's not about trying to hide behind stories. You want a promotion? I want a promotion. This is how much I want. And that's what we practice. We didn't go in and try to practice and a whole script for her to say. We realized that in order to learn how to remain, she had to be able to sit with it and just be very direct and very clear. No stories, no exaggerations, no over explaining, just being very clear and very direct. And then after practicing that, learning how to remain in it, then she was able to move forward. Okay, so let me see what everybody is seeing. And here's the reframe that changes everything. The jaw gate doesn't need confidence. It needs containment. Containment is the ability to let your words land without chasing approval. It's the capacity to state something and stay present while the room reacts. It's the ability to tolerate silence after clarity. Silence is where most women panic. Silence feels like exposure. Exposure feels like unsafe. So women feel it. They explain it. They soften it. They joke within it. They apologize. They undo their own authority, and money leaves through the same mouth it tried to enter. You can track income leakage by tracking speech leakage. Every time you said more than was necessary, every time you minimize your contribution, every time you avoided naming value, every time you waited to be recognized instead of clarifying your role, that's where money went. Not because you were wrong, but because your body chose familiarity over authority. The work is not becoming louder, it is becoming cleaner, simpler sentences, fewer qualifiers, clearer statements, letting your words stand. Because, and let me pause here because I have to be very clear with you all and very direct with you all. This has nothing to do about you being rude. Being rude just leads to more confusion and more opportunity for people to test what you're saying. Being direct is just being able to remain and being clear when you make statements and letting your words stand, even if silence tends to follow. See, silence always have made women nervous. I remember when I taught more relationship content than anything else, and I would be like, let silence be. And we would be like, what happens if he gets bored? Or I don't like the fact I'm eating and he's quiet or I'm quiet. And they just want to fill in the noise because of the fact they don't like exposure. A lot of times when people are silent, that is when you are being reviewed. And people don't like that feeling. So you have to learn to remain within it and let silence do its work. Either he is going to be affected by it or you're going to be affected by it. So let words stand. Let words stand. Being able to be silenced also allows authority not to leak. Being able to let silence do a job. That's the reason why I don't sit here and try to engage with live stream if you're not going to engage back anymore. Before, I used to try to carry the live stream as long as possible because I like doing this. I love interacting with you all. But there's an authority leakage when I constantly try to keep the live stream going when there isn't anything I'm being met with silence. I lose in that conversation. I lose in that dialogue. So I've decided that if there's no engagement, there's no engagement. I just have to let the words and the content land and let it speak for itself. But it took me learning to remain and sit with being exposed, because when you're in silence, sometimes silence feels like rejection, like you're being rejected for your who you are, your person, your content, the things that you're communicating. And that is a hard scope to handle. And that's what the entire work, the observational framework that I created within the Inner Throne is about: learning how to remain in those situations, learning how to remain when you're exposed, learning not to allow authority to leak and stand in clarity and be clear and direct with your statements and your words. So I've said a lot. Let me see what everybody's saying in the live stream. Brings me back to Dad. Always said to speak up for what we need, but he would fuss, complain, and drop poverty mind statements. So I never felt safe to ask. It really impacted my ability to receive early. Yes, and I can see why it does. Because once you sit here and say, or you teach your child to speak up, but then you walk around and you complain and you leak authority and you're not directing your own life, it sets a precedent. Kids learn better by watching the adults in their lives. That's why I'm very conscious. Well, I was, like you all know, I have adult kids. I don't have any small little ones anymore. But that's one of the things I tried to make sure I did was I was the example. I wasn't just talking about it. I was walking that walk. I was the example, so that they can pick up on these things that I'm talking. Because actually, kids listen better when they're watching you do it versus if you're talking about it. So now I just ignore him, remind myself he offered, and him providing benefits his masculinity. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so sometimes you have to know this requires compensation. This no longer works for me. No performance, no emotional labor, no over explaining. A lot of times, the reason why you don't have the promotion The reason why you don't have more money at your job or your position, it is because money is leaking at your mouth. You are not standing in clarity and you're leaking authority when you are interacting with that person. Instead of you being very clear that, hey, my role has changed and I'm going to require more compensation in order to do this position, you have continued to stay in that position and you are not asking for what you want. And since you're not willing to be clear and ask what you want, money won't stay with you. Let me say that again. If you will not learn how to be clear and ask what you want, money will not stay with you. Money loves clarity. Money loves direction. And if you don't have it, you won't have no money. See, the very first times that a woman speaks this way, her body reacts. The jaw will tighten, the heart will race, the urge to soften will be intense. And it is. It is very intense. If you are used to not being clear, you're so used to trying to honor other people's feelings and emotions and honor that person that you don't honor yourself. So when you're having conversation with that person, instead of being clear and very direct with your words and your statements, you try to soften them. You try to over explain them. And then the more you do and the more you try to remain in it, from personal experience, the urge to soften will become very intense. The urge to soften will become very intense. And that's actually very normal going through this process of learning how to remain, of learning how to just be clear and be in clarity instead of softening and over explaining. If that's the thing that you kind of fall back into when your body feels unsafe, is that you fall back into over explaining yourself or softening your words instead of just saying, hey, this did not go well. Instead, you try to soften it. Well, it may go well tomorrow. Maybe if we do this right here different, it's going to go well. Instead of just being very direct, it didn't go well. I don't think we should do that anymore because it did not go well. It's not going to work out. But what we do, since we have that pressure and the body feels that pressure, instead of us coming out and being very clear and direct, we try to soften it. But the process of changing and remaining in that, you're going to find that the urge to fall back into your patterns when that pressure happens is going to be super intense. So I am warning you that it gets harder before it gets better, before it gets easier. Okay. Unfamiliar safety feels dangerous because it feels safe. This is where most women retreat. They tell themselves it didn't feel aligned, that they should have been nicer, that they should have waited. But what they're feeling is not misalignment, is capacity expanding. Money doesn't require fearlessness, it requires steadiness. And steadiness is trained by letting your words remain intact, even when your body wants to backpedal. When the jaw gate stabilizes, everything downstream changes. Work conversations become simpler, boundaries become easier, compensation becomes clearer, energy returns, resentment fades because the body is no longer carrying the cost of what wasn't said. This is the deeper truth. Money stops at the mouth because the mouth is where authority is either claimed or abandoned. Every softened truth is a small application. Every unspoken boundary is a leak. Every over explained sentence is money rerouted into effort. This has nothing to do with worth because I done been down that path. I spent over $5,000 in courses and master classes and seminars thinking that it was worth, thinking that it was a block, not realizing that the body just needs to be trained so that it can have that capacity easier to stay when that pressure is on. The body is feeling unsafe. So it has everything to do with safety. So if money has been stalling for you, whether you run a business or you clock in every day, don't look at your bank account first. Look at your jaw. Look at your speech. Look at the moments where your body tightens right before clarity. That's the gate. And when the jaw gate learns it can speak and survive, money no longer has to fight its way in. It can land. Yes, so true. I still feel it, but I'm getting better and better. Thank you for all the wisdom you are dropping. I feel so much more confident. Yes, absolutely. That's the reason why we're going to continue to have these conversations, because I don't want women to do what I did, because I thought it was an inner child issue. I thought it was a block. I thought it was a self-worth issue. I thought I need to, tighten my values. I thought I need to do all these things, but it was because the body was feeling unsafe. So when the body feels unsafe and that pressure comes along, we exit. We exit with our patterns. We have certain patterns that we display when the body is under pressure. And a lot of us are losing money at it. We're losing money because of the fact that when it's time to ask for our price, to know our value, what we tend to do, we tend to over explain or try to soften it. And see, the thing is, when people can see that you're not clear or very direct in your statements or your words, then it becomes very easy to persuade you or to get you off track or to guide you down a path that you don't even want to go in. So when it's time to ask for that promotion, instead of falling victim to your patterns and letting your body just feel unsafe, learn how to remain within it and learn to be direct and have clarity in your statements and your directness. You don't have to be rude. I'm gonna keep saying it over and over because a lot of people believe that being direct is rude. And those are two different things. A lot of times direct is the same thing as being confused. And when confusion comes into play, when confusion comes into words or statements or clarity, what happens is that you leak authority. People don't take you as seriously. People don't get on your side because you think you're being direct, but you're just being rude. We can be direct without being rude. Actually, being direct will be more effective than being rude. So I'm not advocating for walking around just being around just saying rude things out the blue. You're just going to cause confusion, and people will see the authority leak from you, from your words, from your statements, from everything that you're saying. And guess what? This does affect you getting people on your side. People actually love the fact when people are direct, but they know how to be direct without being rude. But you're leaking money at your jaw. You're leaking money because you're not willing to be clear. You're leaking money because you don't ask for the promotion. Instead of asking for the promotion, you say, hey, it's not time, or I don't have enough education, or I haven't been here long enough. You say things like this and you convince yourself that it's because of those things versus it's because the body doesn't feel safe. The body doesn't feel safe to go and ask for that promotion directly. So it throws in all these different excuses. These are your patterns. This is the reason why you never got the promotion, and you probably never will because you've never been clear in your life. And there's a difference between being clear and going all the way around the bush with what you need to say. That's just over explaining, and it looks pretty. That's all it is. And for those who are running a business, if every time you're trying to state your price, you can't even state your price because when you're trying to state your price, you get that feeling that feels like your jaw is tightening up, your throat is tightening up. So instead of stating your price, you over explain your price. You spiritualize your price. You intellectualize your price. You try to oversell your thing because you don't feel comfortable asking for your price. Your money is leaking at your jaw. You're not clear. You're not direct. Your authority is leaking. So people are not taking you seriously. And I've experienced it myself when I first started charging, because for a long time I did what I do now, and I did it for free for years, for at least 2 years. And it was because I really wasn't comfortable with asking for money for things. Because in my mind, if I asked for money for things, it meant that I was broke, and I was far from it when I came on social media. even though I had to learn to remain in that feeling, that discomfort. Instead of, at first I would offer a price and say eventually it's going to be this price, but then I would give it away for free. So people knew to wait me out, and she's going to give it away for free. So I don't got to worry about her talking about a price. I had to sit in that comfort and learn to discomfort, not comfort. I had to sit in that discomfort and learn to remain, and then become very clear and ask for what I feel like my content, my work is valued at. So if you are leaking money, or you don't have money, you don't have enough money, it's not because of the fact that you're not putting enough effort in. It's not because of the fact that you don't have a good job, a good position. It is because of the fact that you don't have the clarity, or the clearness to be able to step up and ask for what you truly want. So you're leaking money at your job. So I see that I said a lot here. I'm definitely gonna give you enough time to drop anything that you want to comment or ask in the chat. But if you cannot become very clear in what you want, you will never have money. You will never have money. I've experienced not being able to have the things that I want because I wasn't very clear. I thought that if I asked for what I wanted, I would be considered greedy. Or if I asked for what I wanted, um, I would be putting too much pressure on others. And at that time, during that process, I cared about what other people, and I was honoring other people's feelings and emotions and what they wanted versus what I wanted. So when I moved to an area that had all the things that you could literally just pick up a magazine and see my next door neighbor's car. You could just pick up a magazine or go on television to these Housewives of Atlanta or Housewives of Pontiac or whatever it's called, all those Real Housewives shows, and you could just see all these luxury things that's all around me. And for a while, it took me a while to remain in that discomfort, to be able to ask for what I wanted clearly. And as long as you can't ask for what you want clearly, it's not just money that will run for you, it's other things also. Like you want this brand new car, but you want to be clear and ask for what you want and be clear that you really want that thing. Instead, you keep just giving yourself excuses of why that thing isn't for you, or why you shouldn't have that thing, or why you shouldn't have that new car, for whatever the reasons are, because only you know what those reasons are. And as long as you're not being clear and you're not standing in clarity, you can never have that thing. And this goes for everything that you decide you want in life. I don't care what it is. If you want the new car, the new house, luxury, luxury outfits, name brand this, name brand that. If you cannot be honest and clear that you want these things, those things will never be yours. Just the honest truth. I had to sit in that discomfort to be able to realize that I want those things also. I want to have the nice car, to have the nice houses. I came from a small town. It took me a while to really dream big because I didn't know those things were possible for a very long time. And then when I realized they were possible, the body felt so unsafe. And at the jaw, there was so much tension that I could not even get the words out physically to be able to communicate that I wanted those things. And as long as I did, that means I could not have them. It's like I could not claim them. And so if you don't ever become clear, if you don't ever stand in clarity, you cannot have the money, you cannot have the luxury things, you cannot have the name brand items, you cannot have the things that you want in life. As long as the body feels unsafe, you're going to always utilize your patterns to exit. All right, so I don't see any questions or comments in my chat, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to close out. I appreciate you, Pedal Wise, for being here all the way to the end. Thank you for being here, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.